Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of Donnie Grant Builds. If you'll recall, if you've been following my channel at all, we did our Butler's Pantry roughly about a year ago, and it was originally a closet that opened up from the other side of that wall, and we changed it into this really functional space for our kitchen. It's nice to put things on display. It serves as our coffee bar, our cutting board station, as well as trash can on one side and snacks on the other side. So super functional space. Next door to that is what serves as our pantry. Let's take a look. Okay, truth be told, this is super embarrassing, but we can't be the only people that are like this. Here's our pantry. It is cluttered. It is disorganized. I mean, there's stuff that gets lost everywhere in here on a regular basis. The shelves are just too deep. We don't have very good organization at all, and we can do a lot better. Now, this isn't a very big space, but we're going to maximize it as much as we can with organization, with specific shelving, and dedicated spaces for dedicated things. So let's see if we can turn this into this. I am super happy with how this all came together. We've got a nice countertop here, a cabinet below, additional storage with a secondary shelf. Everything has motion sensor LEDs, which typically kick on when you need them to. There we go, that lower one just turned on. There's a couple more up here that may turn on. There we go, while we're filming. But we've got nice, clean organization all across the top with all of these Tupperwares. Everything is labeled, everything is organized. A huge improvement. Also, really big fan of these drop-down spice racks. And all of this stuff will be linked. All of these organizational pieces will be linked down below in the video description. But without any further ado, let's see how we made this happen. Let's get into the video. All right, so the first step here is to find some material to make a cabinet out of. Like you saw in the intro, this setup is going to have a lower cabinet with 3 drawers, a countertop, and 2.5 upper shelves. So let's grab some leftover plywood and let's start breaking things down to make that lower cabinet. So I'm actually trying to get away from the habit of asking people to like the video, subscribe to the channel at the beginning, because you haven't seen anything yet. You don't know if my channel is actually worth subscribing to. So instead, what I would ask is that you stick around for a little bit, watch a little bit of the video, and see if you can get something from it. See if I can add a little bit of value. And if I do, then I would request that you like the video and consider subscribing, because I do put out videos like this on a regular basis. Let's get back to making that cabinet. All right, so here we're just going over our materials list. We got our pocket hole jig and some right angle clamps to keep everything square, and I'll be sure to link both of these down in the description below for you. As far as our cabinet construction, we are going to make everything using pocket hole screws. Pocket hole screws are plenty strong, and this is actually their specific application. This is why pocket hole screws were made. I will, however, make sure to note that when you are using pocket hole screws, always clamp things tight before you drive those screws. Otherwise, the orientation of the screw will pull the piece out of square, and you will have a heck of a time getting even gaps on drawer faces or on cabinet fronts. So do your due diligence ahead of time and screw everything nice and tight with clamps holding it square. Now here you can see I'm adding a full 3/4 inch back panel. This is totally overkill. You don't have to have a full 3/4 inch back panel. A 1/4 inch back panel will do well. Just add some support brackets on the back top of the unit and the back lower portion of the unit, just to prevent from racking and to give yourself a plate to screw into the wall to mount your cabinet so it doesn't fall over when you pull the drawer fronts out. The last piece here is going to be the toe kick. This is just a little cutout to drop your feet in when you go up to the cabinet so you don't bump the cabinet base. And I just marked a piece to fit the space and then Brad nailed it into place. We'll fill these holes later and we'll paint the whole cabinet. Now we're going to move on to the face frame. When measuring for the face frame, be sure to include the width of your face frame. Off camera, I got some poplar boards, cut to width, cut to length, and I'm going to attach these using pocket hole screws as well. Again, this is all going to be made out of poplar because poplar is an excellent paint grade material, and we're going to be painting this a nice deep green color. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks. I'm gonna make mistakes. And with the face frame all made, we could take it over to the cabinet and test fit. And everything is looking good, so we can go ahead and attach permanently. Now, there are several different ways you could attach a face frame. You could use pocket hole screws from the outside if those won't be seen, or you could use them from the inside if those would be seen, Or you can do what I'm doing, which is just adding some wood glue, putting the face frame on, and then brad nailing it into place with an 18 gauge brad nailer. Since we're painting, we'll fill these holes and you'll never know it was there. Now I take measurements at the interior, top, and bottom to make sure that there's no unevenness, no out of squareness, and I can glue up a piece of scrap poplar stock in order to make those drawer faces. Ideally, you'd have a board that was big enough that you wouldn't have to do this panel glue up, but I didn't, so I just glued these up. That way I had a nice consistent panel to work with. Now, while we were in glue up mode, I went ahead and started working on the other panels we're going to need for the project. If you'll recall from the intro, or if not, here's a 3D clip to show you, we're going to need a countertop as well as 2 upper U-shaped shelves and 1 single floater shelf. I am going to use my Fez tool domino to bring these all together to help with alignment on the countertop, but to also provide support in those connecting points on the U-shaped shelves. Otherwise, it would be an in-grain to long-grain glue up, which is inherently pretty weak. If you don't have a domino joiner, I highly recommend using dowels or pocket hole screws on those upper shelves because you're going to have trouble with those staying together and not ultimately coming apart over the long haul.
I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna skip my breaks. I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna skip my breaks. I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna skip my breaks. I'm gonna make.
Now, I'm not usually one to say you have to have a tool in order to do something, but I will say having parallel clamps for this particular application was great. It kept real even pressure and prevented the shelves from bowing at that joint. Once those were all dry, I took them out of clamps and gave them a good sanding, going up through the grits from 120 up to 180, getting everything nice and smooth to the touch. And I also added an 1/8 inch roundover on all of the shelf edges. Now, as for the countertop, I wanted it to have a waterfall edge. So I set it to the maximum depth from the back of the cabinet to the front of my countertop and cut a 45-degree bevel. Taking that off-cut piece, I nudged over the fence just a smidge in order to cut another 45-degree cut right along that top corner. That'll essentially remove a triangle portion, and then when you go to put it next to the original piece, you'll have that perfect triangle missing, but your grain on the outside face will wrap down perfectly. Just like so. Now, in order to attach this, I wanted to keep it real simple, so I just used some packing tape. Normally, I would use painter's tape, but I didn't have any, so packing tape works fine. I just doubled up on either side to give it a little bit of extra support. After that was all taped up, I flipped the entire thing over and added a good amount of glue, spread it around to make sure that all the surface area was covered, and then I folded the miter up. Now, I originally tried to use tape to get a nice tight joint, but it was a little bit loose, so I just added a squeeze clamp in order to bring that into a true 90. With that all glued up, I could set it aside and turn my attention to the drawer boxes, which is when I noticed I don't have any 1/2-inch plywood, so I was off to the store in solo dad mode. Are you riding on the plywood? Are you guys having so much fun? Sometimes you just gotta make it work. Anyway, back at the shop, we can get ready to do our drawer boxes. Now, our face frame was designed in such a way that we have a 3/4 inch overhang on the inside of the cabinet. In order for our drawer boxes and drawer slides to clear, we'll have to build that out 3/4 of an inch, which was done by design just so I could slap a couple pieces of extra plywood in place and get to building the drawer boxes. Now, these are undermount drawer slides. They do require a couple extra steps. I think there's a little bit of misinformation out there. They make it seem like it's really, really difficult to do these, and honestly, it's not that challenging. If you'd like to see a video specifically dedicated to building drawer boxes for undermount slides and how to install them, leave a comment down below and let me know. I'd be happy to do that. There is a highlighted story over on my Instagram page that walks through the entire process. Again, pretty straightforward. But in the meantime, let's enjoy some of this B-roll and getting these drawer boxes made. Okay, so I paused the time lapse because I just had to share this. I've been building for almost 7 years, a ton of different things, drawers, cabinets, etc. And this is one of the most satisfying drawers I've ever made. Figuring out this bottom panel measurement is always just a pain in the butt. I don't know if I'm dyslexic, if I just can't get the numbers right, but I always tend to mess it up. And this one, actually all three of these, this feeling right here is so satisfying. That's a perfect fit. The back panel drops in exactly where it should, and they're dead on. That is just, man, sometimes you just got to celebrate the wins. Let's keep working. Now, as far as how to actually connect the walls of your drawer box, there's a ton of different ways. I've seen people use pocket hole screws. I've seen people just use glue. I like to use a combination of a little bit of glue and brad nails, and I orient the nails in such a way that you're always pulling against the horizontal face of the nail as opposed to the vertical or direct face of the nail, if that makes sense. I've made all of my drawer boxes this way, and I've never once had a drawer box fail on me, so I think this is plenty strong. Now, with the drawer boxes done, we could turn our attention to the drawer faces. What I like to do is add an 1/8 inch spacer at the bottom of the cabinet, measure from that spacer up to where I clear that bottom drawer box, and then cut the panel to fit. And then I just rinse and repeat, adding spacers along the way to make sure that I have equal spacing once I attach all of these to the drawer boxes. I want that spacing between the individual drawer faces as well as the drawer face and the walls of the face frame. Now, this is going to go in the pantry, so we don't want any proud hardware that's just going to eat up space that we could otherwise use inside the cabinet itself. So instead, what we opted for was just a negative finger grab, which I did between the bandsaw and the table saw. Here, I'm looking to attach the face frames, so I pre-drill and attach a couple of screws inside the drawer box. That way they're already started, and all I have to do is put the drawer face on, clamp it in place with my spacers, pull the drawer face out, and then drive those screws home, securing the drawer face to the drawer box. With everything finally assembled, we could take it all apart and get ready to finish. For the lower cabinet, I actually decided to paint these the same deep, rich green color that we used on our front door, as well as our mudroom. There are videos on both of those projects, so if you haven't seen them, I'll link them below. Be sure to check those out. I went back and scuffed up everything with 320 grit sandpaper in between coats, and I actually decided to add a coat of finish on the cabinet itself, which was a game changer. Highly recommend if you haven't tried it. Now let's get all this crap pulled out of this pantry so we can make this space look way better. All right, so I apologize that the lighting is bad and it's not a really great camera angle. This is a really tight little space, but I wanted to give a quick tip on the best way to get these kind of built-in ledges off without damaging your drywall. So if you take a putty knife, stick it behind, then you can take your Pro Bar, drop it right in front of the putty knife, give it a couple good whacks, and then you can pry against the putty knife instead of against your drywall, and that'll distribute the load and not put a big hole in your drywall, which will give you a lot less that you have to patch. You can see that's pretty clean. I'm gonna have to sand and paint, but there's no big hole in the drywall because the putty knife took the load, not the drywall itself. Okay, so I didn't fully record this because I don't think it's that important of a step, but off camera, I painted the wall so it was brighter. I installed our mounted motion sensor LEDs on either side. We're gonna put a few more in those here. They're just battery powered. I'll throw a link to those down below. But I also went ahead and anchored the cabinet in. And I missed the stud here, so I just pre-drilled it because it'll be back here, no one will oversee it. But this on the top little kicker strip and the bottom, I ended up having to get rid of the full back panel. I lost our lights here because we weren't moving enough, but I got rid of the full back panel because I needed more depth and I didn't want to cut the whole cabinet. So I just took the back panel off and then recessed in back strips, which is a very common practice with cabinet making, saves a lot of material. I just decided to do a full back panel the first time, and it ended up being a waste of time. So just do a little strip at the top and the bottom, and I tied this strip into this one with screws down, and then pocket hold on the back side either way. And I did the same thing at the bottom behind that drawer, but I'm not gonna pull it out because it's gonna be a chore. So we are moving along. Next, I'm gonna use our laser level to mark a support block on either side to drop the countertop on, and to mark where to hang our hanging brackets for our floating shelves. Okay, so again, tight space, big person, not always the easiest combination, but the countertop is done, the cabinet is in, and I've got these riser blocks to give the cabinet the false depth. It's gonna look like it's 1.5 inches, but really this is just 3/4 inch material, and then the front face hangs down that 1.5 inches to make it look like a thicker countertop. It's the exact height to match our previously existing butcher block countertop for our pantry remodel, our Butler's pantry remodel, different video. I'll link that below. So we're gonna take bets and see what the over-under is on me being able to get this to fit on the first try. I took measurements, but closets are never square, so we're just gonna have to see how it goes. I'll wait right here. Go down in the comments and just put your guess. Is it gonna work? Is it not gonna work? And we'll see. Also, real quickly before I give this a go, as far as mounting the countertop in here, I attached these panels both to raise it up, like I said, but also I pre-drilled oversized holes here that I'm going to use panhead screws with a washer underneath, and between the panhead screw, the washer holding it in place, and the hole being oversized, it should allow the wood to move enough seasonally that we won't have any kind of splitting or cracking or checking or anything like that. And then I'm actually just going to leave it floating on these support brackets on the side. So I think that'll work out pretty well. One thing to keep in mind here is if you're dealing in a small space, like this is obviously tall enough that I'm going to need to be able to maneuver vertically a good deal to get this in here. If I had done the shelving first, goodness, I might shut the voice over here. If I did the shelving first, I wouldn't have room to move up top. There we go. Oh, I think we're in. Boom. That looks pretty decent. Let's get a close up here. Yeah, now I've got space on the side, a little bit on the back, and that happens. Again, closets are definitely not square. Builders are not professional carpenters. Things are going to be on square, especially when it comes to drywall. And that's actually good in this case because, again, this is real lumber. It is going to expand and contract seasonally. So we want to make sure we leave it room to do that. So we'll secure it underneath using those oversized holes, and this should be good to go. We can work our way up to the upper stretchers, which will introduce the sponsor of this video. I'm happy to announce that I'm partnering with Dovo for this project. Dovo creates high quality laser levels. This is their H3 360G model. It came in a beautiful hard plastic sustainer case with custom Kaizen cutout pieces for all of their components. High quality stuff. I was very impressed by what I saw here. This particular laser stands out with 110 laser diode output compared to most of its competitors only putting out 30. It's brighter, it's more accurate, and Dovo, like myself, is committed to providing high quality products for their customers. So they have a 5-year accuracy warranty. If anything should go wrong with the accuracy of your laser level, they will replace it free of charge. They're running a promotional offer for all of the Donnie Graham Builds viewers with a 15% off discount code. I'll have a link to all those details located in the video description below. And again, a huge thank you to Dovo for sponsoring this video. And now let's wrap up this video. We are in the home stretch. The cabinet's in, the countertop's installed, and we're fussing in these shelves to get them nice and fitted. Again, they run the full 40 inches of the interior of the pantry, so you need to be strategic about how you're getting them in and which shelf goes in first. That way you have the most maneuverability possible. I got everything secured tightly, and then off camera, the missus and I got all of our spices and snacks labeled and organized in these beautiful containers, and we're ready for that nice B-roll. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this project. Thank you so much for following along. I'm absolutely thrilled with how this came together. You can see our motion sensor LED lights have already kicked on just because it's kind of catching me moving out here. And that is great because this doesn't have a built-in light wired from the house. And I didn't want to go through the time to additionally wire more light in. This was a much cheaper, much more affordable option. So I'll be sure to link those motion sensor LEDs down below. Additionally, the Tupperware and the organization up top, as well as the spice racks, will be linked below. Those are all Amazon finds, and they make just really, really good additions to any space like this that needs a little bit of organization and some extra lighting. Again, a huge thank you to Dovo for sponsoring this week's video. Their 360H laser level will be running that 15% promotional discount using the code in the video description below, so be sure to check that out. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Until next time, get out there and start your own project.